Hello everyone. Today I felt like ranking every film I watched in 2021 from worst to best. Why? Well, because I was bored, I guess. Now these films are kind of all over the place, so you may have seen some and you may have not. And these are also only movies that I watched for the first time this year. So there will be mild spoilers for these films, because I'm going to talk about them briefly. Although I won't give like the ending away or anything. And if I do, I'll let you know. So if you really don't want to know anything about a movie, just skip to the next one, I guess. Or just don't watch the video. Also, these are ranked based off my opinion, which would make sense. So you may disagree. However, I decided to go the extra mile. So after I finished my ranking, right, I then looked at all the Rotten Tomatoes scores for each one and ranked them again based off the critic scores. So for each film we'll go over today, I'll compare my ranking with the Rotten Tomatoes score ranking to kind of get an idea whether or not my opinion is normal and should be trusted, or maybe I'm just crazy and you shouldn't listen to anything I say. Also, if the Rotten Tomatoes scores were like tied, I just ranked them by the audience score. That would help a bit. I also did it, I just wanted to see how well Rotten Tomatoes reflect my expectations for future reference, because sometimes I look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores before, and if it's like low, I'm like, I'm not going to watch that. But I don't know how good of an indicator it actually is. So, and I think you'll find the results to be quite interesting. And at the end of the video, I'll have a detailed breakdown with stats. So, okay, let's just get started.
Something is up with your roommate. What do you mean?
So, in last place, we actually have an agreement, because it also had the lowest score on Rotten Tomatoes, scoring a whopping 3%. It's The Roommate from 2011. And man, this movie blows. It's about two college roommates, and one of them turns out to be a psychopath or something. It's an okay concept, I suppose, but it's executed so poorly. I mean, okay, there is some enjoyment to be had here. Like, sometimes you're just in the mood for something stupid like this, kind of a cheap horror flick. But it does end up feeling pretty random and unclear. Like, I can't tell what this film is trying to be. Like, it's a horror film, but I can't tell if I'm, like, supposed to take it seriously or not. Like, it's just so silly and unnecessary and very cringy is the biggest thing. Most of the film is just being shocking for the sake of being shocking. Like, there's a part where the crazy roommate kills a kitten in a messed up way, and it's just like, why? There's no reason for that. It's just a cheap shock gimmick that I just don't appreciate. So yeah, this film is taking last place. But luckily, it's all uphill from here. There's a slight disagreement here, because the Rotten Tomatoes ranking is 23rd at about 67%. Anyway, It's a Life, which is a 2017 sci-fi horror flick I watched pretty early in 2021. And thus, I don't remember it too well, but I don't remember enjoying it, that's for sure. Basically, it's just about a space crew studying some jelly starfish-looking life form or something, and the thing just ends up killing everyone on the ship. That's it. Also, the deaths are overly grotesque, and that's not something I care for. Like the last film, it just feels shocking for the sake of being shocking. Also, I just don't like body horror. There's a lot of that. I tried watching, like, Hostel 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre this year, but I just couldn't get through them. It's just a little too much for me. Now, I may contradict myself later in the video, but yeah. That's probably why I ranked this one lower than Rotten Tomatoes, because I'm just personally not interested in that. The best part would probably be the ending, though I won't spoil it here, because it is a bit of a twist. So, number 35, we have our first major conflict, because what I ranked 35th was actually ranked 8th on Rotten Tomatoes. It scored 90%, but personally, I just didn't like it. It's The Lighthouse. No, not all these films are horror movies, by the way. But this is another one I just didn't like. I appreciate what they were going for, like the black and white was kind of cool. It's a very slow and quiet film, which isn't something I hate. It's okay, but just with this one, I just found it to be so boring. And it sucks to say that because it seems like everyone liked it. I mean, it has 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. But if I don't enjoy a movie, I can't rank it any higher. Unfortunately. Is it just me? I don't know.
Love is just passion that can turn.
Number 34 ranked number 32 on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's a pretty similar. But I don't have much to say about it. The Giver. I know it's based off a book that I actually did read a long time ago, I think in middle school for a class, and I remember liking it. It was an interesting concept, but perhaps it should have stayed that way, because for some reason the movie just isn't that interesting. I don't know why. Also, funny enough, a lot of this film is also in black and white, like The Lighthouse, like the last film. But the film isn't really bad. Like, there wasn't anything to hate about it. But again, I just didn't find it that enjoyable or memorable. And thus, I can't rank it very high. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yo, there's a stray cat outside!
Number 33 is also a close ranking with Rotten Tomatoes, which scored 29th. And it's Pet Sematary. Yes, it's another horror film. Maybe horror films just aren't that good in general, although I do watch a lot of them, and I do like some. This time it's a Stephen King adaptation. And Pet Sematary was a book that I wanted to read, but then I was too lazy and just decided to watch the movie. And that's kind of how this happened. And the movie kind of sucks. Also, I can't believe I never noticed the misspelling in the title. Cemetery is spelled wrong intentionally, but I never noticed that somehow. Maybe I suck at spelling. So yeah, sadly I found this movie kind of boring and kind of dumb. I'm sure the book is better. Also, this is an 80s film, so it was probably better at the time, but it just didn't really hold up for me. I was also a little nervous going into this one because I don't really do good with like animals, namely pets, dying. Like I just don't really like that. But it's not a big part of the story actually. And if you don't know what it's about a cemetery where families bury the pets and they come back to life, but in a different way. And then in the movie, in the book, the story, they try to bury a child, and some stuff happens. It's a classic Stephen King story, so there is enjoyment to be had here, but from what I know, the book would be a much better experience, and the movie just doesn't really do it justice. So, number 32, we have another pretty major disagreement, because this one ranked 13th on Rotten Tomatoes. People seem to really like this one. But again, I just don't have much to say about It Comes at Night. I'm not sure why I ranked it so much lower than the critics. I guess I just wasn't that invested. Yes, it's another horror film, although it's not like a scary one. In fact, I don't even really remember what it was about. I don't remember what the title actually had to do with the movie. I know it had some pretty tense moments that was kind of nice. I think the most memorable part for me was like near the end, because A24 was keeping up with its tradition of just killing someone's family in a messed up way. That was kind of a spoiler, but yeah, that's what happens. Other than that, I barely remember anything from this film. I might recommend it then, though, because it does seem like a lot of people did enjoy it, but I don't know. I didn't really remember it, so therefore I didn't really enjoy it, I guess. Alright, so moving on.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
Number 31, which was 24th on Rotten Tomatoes, somewhat close. Not a great film, and it's Frozen, 2010. It's not the Disney Frozen, which is very popular, although I have seen that as well, and it's definitely better than this. The Disney Frozen's actually not too bad. Not that Frozen 2010 is terrible, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. It's about three snowboarders who get stuck on a ski lift. And as someone who's been skiing for many years and has been on many ski lifts, this is definitely a thought that has crossed my mind, and it's interesting to see a movie on it. Sadly, though, the film seems to be a very inaccurate representation of what would go down. Like, I could tell that whoever made this has not had much experience with ski lifts. Like, why is the ski resort closing at 10 p.m.? Usually they close at like 4 because of ice. Also, why is everyone freaking out when a ski lift stops for a second? That's a pretty normal thing. Someone even loses a glove when trapped on the ski lift overnight and leaves their hand exposed without a problem. And normally that would be a huge problem, but in this movie it's not. In fact, nothing's really a problem because this is a bit of a spoiler, but the biggest threat in this film is wolves. Like, whenever someone dies, it's because of a wolf. That's like the biggest problem they come across. Seems like wolves would be the least of your problems in a situation like this. But whatever. Other than that, the movie is okay, and there is some enjoyment here, but it's not much.
The dune habitat is made up of millions of tiny pieces of sand.
Okay, number 30 is Dune, which ranked 15th on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm definitely disliking this more than the average person. And I don't know why. I know this is one of the most popular movies of 2021, but I don't know, I just wasn't that interested in it for some reason. Maybe, I know it's a book too, maybe I should have read the book. I think the problem is I'm just not that interested in action movies, just at all. Like, it's a lot of action. Like, I don't really like, it's kind of like a Star Wars type movie, which I don't really like Star Wars either. It's just not what I'm interested in. But that's really it. That's all I really have to say. I just didn't like it as much as the average person. Sadly. Okay. Next is, okay, right, moving on. Number 29 is slightly lower than Rotten Tomatoes, which ranks 21st. And it is Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the animated one. This is the 5th Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie at this point. And as a 2000s kid, I grew up on Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You know, it was a staple of my childhood and many others, so this was exciting to see. An animated one. Even the movies, the original 3 Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies from like 2010 are pretty classic to me too. Like, those were good films. Pretty nostalgic. So seeing an animated one was interesting, although the problem was it's just not. Here's the thing, it's a short film, so there's not much there. It's like 50 minutes long. Not much happens, and nothing new happens. Because we've seen the book, we've seen the movie, and this is basically just the same story again. Like, we've already seen this going to middle school. And in fact, there's even less in this story. It's kind of the story, but like a more dubbed down version, just animated. It's like a short TV movie. That's what this feels like. And the animation doesn't really work that well. Trying to project the 2D drawings from the book, just they don't really translate to 3D very well. They're like notebook doodles in the book. They're obviously not what the people actually look like, but this movie tries to do that, and it just makes the characters look very uncanny. So yeah, but it is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I can't hate on it. It's just not gonna rank that high, sadly.
Black holes are among the most fascinating objects in our universe.
So this one I actually ranked a little bit higher than than Rotten Tomatoes. I ranked which ranked at 34th. It only has 29%. And that would be Event Horizon from the late. This is a horror sci-fi kind of like Life from the late 90s. And this is an interesting one because I remember my roommate was recommending this one to me, and it's an interesting concept. Like, there was definitely potential here, right? It's kind of like a 90s version of like Interstellar, but with more blood. It's about a ship called the Event Horizon, which tries to make a wormhole to warp through space to go long distances. But instead it ends up just ripping a hole through the universe and going into like hell or something crazy like that. Unfortunately, the movie itself, not a whole lot happens. Like 90% of the movie is just people kind of walking around the ship being confused because strange things start happening, like they hear voices or something. And then at the very end of the movie, they kind of flash up some graphic images and then call it a horror movie, and that's about it. I will give some credit because I think it was done pretty well. Like the little bit of horror they did was kind of good. It is body horror. It's bloody. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it was done kind of well, and it did kind of creep me out for a bit. But unfortunately, that's the only memorable part from this movie. The rest is just not a lot there. So yeah. Number 27. I ranked this one higher again, because Rotten Tomatoes put this one 35th. This 35th, it only has 21%. But it wasn't too bad. It's case 39. It's not too bad. I watched this a while ago. I don't remember it too well. It's about like a child that's like a demon. Now, that's kind of a spoiler, I guess, because that was kind of a twist. It does throw a couple twists your way. I won't say everything, but it's about like a child that just kind of is like, I don't know. It's not like a possession movie or anything. It's just a child that acts really strange and starts messing with people. It has a couple cool twists. Like, I wasn't expecting what to happen kind of. Well, I don't know. It was a while. I don't have really much to say about it, but it's not a bad film, though it's not that good. Yeah. Okay, so this one was a very close agreement. I ranked it 26th. Rotten Tomatoes ranked it 25th, so I'm pretty much on the average with this one. And it's The Terminal. Yep, finally, a non-horror movie. Well, I guess Wimpy Kid wasn't, but this is more of a comedy, you know? It's kind of it was an okay one. I don't know. It wasn't like that memorable, but it was what it was. It has Tom Hanks being like, I don't remember, some international guy who gets stuck in an airport because of some visa problem, so he can't leave. And that's about it. That's pretty much the whole movie. It's kind of fun. There was like a romance plot that comes up like halfway through that I kind of started to lose interest in the later half. It just got kind of dumb. And I kind of like got really bored at the end. Like, the explanation was like, okay, whatever. But it's okay. It's enjoyable. Not great, but, you know, watch it on a rainy day kind of movie. Number 25. This was also close. It was 28th on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is a difficult one because I love the soundtrack to this movie. Like, I listen to the music from this movie, like, been consistently ever since I've seen it. It's The Greatest Showman. And it's interesting. It's a musical. Growing up in the 2000s, I didn't really watch many musicals. So the movie itself, like the storyline, I didn't really care about that much. But I thought the musical numbers were done very well. And the cinematics were done very well, so I had to give it some credit. But the movie itself, though, I mean, wasn't that interesting, honestly. Like, that's the thing with a musical, you kind of sacrifice the story a bit. So it was kind of inconsistent, like, the timeline didn't really sync up. I don't know. It's fine. Like, I don't think I'd watch it again. But mostly for the movie. Less about the movie, it's about the music. The music is really what I like about this. And it's what I've listened to many times at this point.
We're just here to use the bathroom. And we're just gonna leave.
So number 24. Now we'll kind of get into the middle of the list a bit. But this one's interesting because Rotten Tomatoes ranked this 36th, second to last, 18%. So this is not a very good, has not a very good reception. But I put it a little higher because I liked it more. It's The Happening, which is a strange movie, I guess. I didn't see anything bad with it. It wasn't the most exciting thing, but it's about people like killing them. It's like Bird Box or something. People just killing themselves because of some spreading disease, and no one can figure out where it's coming from. And then they do figure out where it's coming from. And I think that was interesting, what it was. I won't spoil it, but I mean, you probably know because a lot of people have seen this, and a lot of people don't like it. But I think it's okay. It's okay. That's what I would say. It's not great, but it's about something strange happening. I don't know. That's about it. Next, okay, here we have another major disagreement. Because I ranked this one 23rd, but Rotten Tomatoes, this one ranked 3rd. It's the 3rd best movie on Rotten Tomatoes on this list. 91%. It's A Quiet Place, Part 2. Fun fact, I think this is the only film I watched in a theater this year. But I liked A Quiet Place. Actually, I've never been too big on the Quiet Place genre or whatever thing, fad, whatever you call it these days. I know it's a pretty popular series, but I wasn't that into it. And I think this movie was not as good as the first. Because not much happened. Didn't feel like much happened to me. It felt short. Also, this was a shock to me. What's his name? John Kwiatkowski something? He wasn't in this movie, except at the beginning. Did he die in the first movie? I don't remember that. But he wasn't in this movie. I guess he died in the first one. That might have been a spoiler, but I just don't remember that happening. What? What the hell? I don't know. Whatever.
My mom is always giving me really weird Christmas presents.
So, number 22. This is also a major disagreement. Because this ranked 5th on Rotten Tomatoes. But I rank it 22nd. Because I didn't like it as much. And this is 22nd place. This is like the most average film on this list. This is like right in the middle. What's like not as good to what's good, I guess. This is right in the middle. I don't remember this film. I watched this a long time ago. At the beginning of the year. I just don't really remember it that well. And it's about some guy who's stalking some people and leaving them gifts, and then it turns out he was the good guy and the other guy was the bad guy, something like that. I don't remember much from it. It just it is a movie that exists, is what this is. But apparently a lot of people like it, so I must be missing something. I guess you can watch it if you want, because apparently a lot of people like it, so maybe it is good, and maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I'm uncultured, I don't know.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
Okay, next we have number 21. This ranked 18th on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's pretty close. And it's Stowaway, which is another space movie. And one of the better ones, I guess. No, the more I think about it, this one's not that good. It's someone accidentally ends up on a spaceship. They're going to where are they? I think they're going to the moon or something, and there was some extra passenger somehow accidentally ended up on the ship, and he's taking up all the oxygen, so they have to figure out what to do, because now there's more people than the ship is equated for. So now what do? There's too many people, not enough resources. I don't know if that actually is how it works. It seems like they would have an abundance of stuff, but also it makes no sense. How would a guy accidentally end up on a spacecraft? How does that happen? Throughout the movie, it's just assumed to be an accident. But it's you can't be making accidents while launching rockets to the moon. It doesn't make sense to me. How does this happen? The movie, other than that, is pretty interesting. I found it interesting, so there was enjoyment. It's good enough. It's not great. It's fine. Okay, moving on. here we have another disagreement, because what I ranked 20th, Rotten Tomatoes ranked 4th. Now, I don't think this is bad. It's pretty good. It's Luca, which is the newest Pixar film that came out this summer. I do like Pixar films, and that's probably why it ranked so high, because Pixar films always rank high. But, I don't know. This one I rank a little lower, because there's not as much to it. But in a way, that's kind of what it's got going for it. It's a very simple animated film, which compared to like Pixar movies these days, like compared to something like Coco or Soul, which cover very heavy and like existential concepts, this is kind of a break from that. It's just a nice, simple, more like something like A Bug's Life, I guess. It's like about kids that'll fish monsters, and they come out, experience land, what people are like on land. It's kind of like what's the movie? The Little Mermaid, I guess, a little bit. That's kind of what it makes me think of. And that's really it. And they compete in a contest, and that's the whole movie, really. And that's fine. It's a simple animated movie. It's a little lower on the list for me because it's not that enjoyable. It's definitely more aimed towards children. It's definitely more of a kid's movie. Like, it's not something like an adult would enjoy too much, but it's good. It's all right. Okay, so now we are smack dab in the middle of the list. Number 19 is the halfway point, and we have an agreement exactly, because Rotten Tomatoes also ranked this 19th. And it's a bit of a strange one. It's Starry Eyes, which is not a movie many people have heard of. I think it's a bit of a niche one. So yeah, this is right in the middle of the list. For reference, that's a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I thought it was pretty good. It's a niche. It's pretty niche. It's niche enough that it's not rated, and it can be streamed free online. And it's about a young woman who's trying to be an actor and will do just about anything, and gets involved in a really shady movie business. I suppose it's not. It turns out to be more. It's more of a cult movie. I won't really spoil much, but it's kind of a cult movie. It turns out to be. It doesn't actually have that much to do with making a movie, or really, she doesn't really do much herself. She just kind of doubts herself. And the thing was kind of like whatever. And kind of goes off in some weird tangent towards the end. But the rest is quite nice. I quite enjoyed it. It's a good niche horror movie that no one really talks about. And I like that. One thing that's strange, when you look this movie up, the promotional art in like the covers, it's very disturbing and graphic. There was some creepy imagery associated with this movie, but the movie itself, it's not really that creepy, to be honest. It's just kind of strange. I would recommend. We're getting to the point where I'd start recommending these. So, yeah, it's a pretty good one. Not great, but it's pretty good. Okay, here we have a bit of a disagreement. 18th is actually 30th on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, so not many people like this, but it is, after all, this is Final Destination 3 we're talking about. Final Destination 3 is its own, oh crap, what's the word? It's its own set of movies. There's like 5 of them. And they're just about people dying in like kind of absurd ways. Now, I know I said I don't really care for like violence and stuff, but for some reason I like this one more. I don't know why. I think what works is that you know that you're not supposed to take this seriously. The movie doesn't really take itself too seriously, I don't think. And it's just kind of fun. Sometimes you're in the mood to just watch people die in strange ways, and I guess I was when I watched this, because I kind of enjoyed it. Obviously, it is, I'm just going to say it is a dumb movie. I'd classify it as such, but that alone doesn't make it bad or non-enjoyable. It scored 44% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of what you'd expect from a Final Destination movie. But I don't know. It's an interesting watch. It doesn't make sense. It's just nonsense, basically. It's about like fate, I guess, kind of gets you to think a little bit in that regard. And I think the deaths in this movie, like, you could avoid them. Just don't go anywhere. But for some reason, they go places and leave each other alone. It's like, you idiots, don't do that. It's a horror movie. What do you think is going to happen? I don't know. Whatever.
May the best man win.
So number 17 ranked number 6 on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is a high-ranking film that I guess I don't like as much, although it's still pretty good. It's $1 Million Baby, and this one's a little awkward for me because I watched the first half, like, at the beginning of the year, or maybe even in 2020, it might have been a while ago. And then I came back and watched the rest of it a while later. Because I got kind of bored at the beginning. It's about this another young woman who wants to be a boxer, I believe it was. And she she keeps getting rejected by this trainer who he's like, oh, I only train boys. I don't train you. But then she keeps on coming back and driving him crazy. And eventually she ends up in a boxing match. And it's about that point where things get really interesting. You probably know, but if you don't, I won't spoil it. But it's definitely a sad film. I didn't even know this was about. So I was just like, okay, wants to be a boxer and she's gonna succeed, and that's the story. But no, that's not how it works. So it's interesting in that regard, and it's very sad, and a lot of people like it. So I'd recommend.
What grapes?
Okay, so this next one, this is also one that ranked really high on Rotten Tomatoes. 16th for me. It's 7th on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the Gilbert Grape. Who's Eating Gilbert Grape? I believe it's called. And it's a movie. I watched it a while ago, and it's a light-hearted movie, I would say. I don't remember it too well. It's a very simple film. It is from the 90s. It's like early 90s. It's fairly old now, but I don't hear many people talk about this. I just kind of saw it on Netflix and watched it. It's one of those films you just see on Netflix, like, hey, I'm going to watch this. And then I did, and I was like, oh, that was pretty good. I like the characters. I like the story. It has Leonardo DiCaprio in it, who plays an autistic kid, which is interesting, and it was kind of strange seeing him as a kid. That was weird. Leonardo DiCaprio, even though he was like 21 when he acted, he looks like he's like 13. It's really strange, but it's a good movie. I don't actually have a lot to say about it. It's a good movie. Although I do know that, like, at some point in the movie, this chick shows up, and I thought she was freaking annoying. Like, I didn't really like her, but she was in the movie for some reason and just existed. She's like the random character who shows up in town and like passes through and has all these inspirational things to say and then disappears. It's kind of what happened in this movie. And it's good. It's good. That's about all I have to say about it. Moving on.
Hey, I hate my life. Have fun being hot.
Okay, so we have a disagreement on this one again. I ranked this 15th. I liked this film for the most part, but Rotten Tomatoes ranks this 31st. It's very low ratings. 38%. It's Accepted, which is about a kid who cannot get accepted to college, so he makes up his own college to like trick his family to make people think he's going to college, but it's just some fake college he made up. It is, I'll classify it right now, it is a dumb movie. It doesn't make sense. It's not practical, but it's a comedy. I'm not much of a comedy guy, but I liked this one. I actually did like this. I'm not sure what it is. I think it has to do with I'm a college student at the time. I'm a college student myself, so it's pretty relatable, even though it's not really relatable at all because it doesn't make sense. But it is kind of relatable, like trying to get into college and stuff like that. It's relatable for me. Now, it kind of falls apart at the end. That's what keeps it behind. That's why I rank it 15th, is that it does get pretty stupid at the end. The end makes no sense whatsoever. Like, what the heck? I don't care for it. You know, you make a fake college. It's him just making a fake college and trying to make it a real college. And yeah, that's really it.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Number 14. This was close. Number 12 on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is quite a film. This is Donnie Darko. I watched this fairly recently, at the end of the year, basically. So this one's pretty fresh in my mind. And this one is difficult to rank. I didn't rank it too high. I didn't make it all too high. I didn't make it low, because I couldn't really tell during watching it, like if I was enjoying it or not. The problem is, with this film, is it's difficult to watch for the first time. You kind of have to watch it a second time. I'm sure if I watched it again, I'd like it more. And that's kind of why I put it up, because it is a good movie. But the problem is, watching it the first time, it just makes no sense, basically. And it's a long movie. Like, I mean, maybe, I think I watched like the director's cut or something, because it was like almost 2.5 hours long, I think. And for like 90% of it, it's just like, what is happening? It's just so confusing. It leaves you questioning so many things that it gets exhausting and kind of hard to follow until the end when it starts to explain things. And even then, it's still a little like in the air, like you kind of have to think about it a bit. But it is interesting what they were going for. It's a very unique concept, at least I think it is, where it goes with like time travel and stuff. And about fate, and it explores some existential things in the film. And then when it gets to the end, and it really starts to explain what is actually going on, which I won't spoil, but it's something. It's something. It's definitely an experience. Not the greatest thing, but it is an experience. Here we go. Number 13. Now this ranked second on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 2, scoring a 92%. And I think you'll see why, because this is Jurassic Park we're talking about. This is probably the most popular and, I guess, classic film on this list. Everybody's seen this, except me, surprisingly. Well, I think I have seen it, but not for a very long time. I remember watching scenes of it when I was like 5 or 6, but this was like the first time I actually watched the movie all the way through, and it was at like the Red Rocks Amphitheater, which is cool, so it was memorable for that. That might have biased it. Although I didn't rank it that high, because, I mean, it is a classic, but it's not like, it's almost too classic now that it's just generic. Like, I kind of already knew what to expect. Like, it wasn't really new to me. It's a movie about dinosaurs, and it's one of the first ones. I think it's the first, like, CGI movie, something like that. So it does have that going for it. Yeah. It's a good, classic 90s movie. And yeah.
You should know that this is the strangest thing I've ever done.
Okay, number 12. This is a close one, 10%. Number 10 on Rotten Tomato. And this is Tangled. Yep, it's a Disney film. And I do like me a Disney film every once in a while. I don't watch them that often, but like when I do, it's like, dang, that was pretty good. And this definitely was a good one. This is actually, I think, the last film I watched in 2021. I watched this like just a few weeks ago. Tangled. It's Disney. It kind of got me in I was on a bit of a Disney streak for a bit. I don't know why. But I like this movie. And I'm going to say it. I like the music from this movie. It's a musical, I suppose. The second musical we've had on this list now. I don't know. Maybe I actually like musicals more than I thought. But like, the music from this movie slaps. I mean, maybe it's just me. But I really like the music. I know it's just a Disney movie. It's just Disney music. What do you expect? But I like it. In fact, this got me on a bit of a tangent where I was listening to all sorts of Disney music. As a 22-year-old man, I've been getting into Disney music. It's weird, but I don't know. I like this movie. It's not the greatest thing ever, obviously. I ranked it 12th. There was definitely movies I like more than this, but I liked it. It's a simple animated film. It's a nice feel-good movie, I guess. I mean, it's kind of like the princess kind of trying to find the family again kind of thing. Not something I'm particularly interested in, but it's enjoyable, and I thought it was quite funny, actually. I'm not much of a funny man, but I thought this was actually pretty fun. For the next one, we have an agreement. Me and Rotten Tomatoes, we both ranked it 11th. And it is Fear Street 1978. Now, Fear Street is a film trilogy that was released on Netflix in, I think, June of this year. And I was pretty impressed, even though I have not seen all of them. I'll say right now, I've seen 2 of them. The other one will be on this list. The third one, 1666, I have not gotten around to watching. I don't know why. I just haven't felt like it. Because I guess these movies you kind of got to watch at once. It's a, how to explain it? I guess it's a slasher movie. It's very, with these movies, the concept is very straightforward. It's almost a little too, and that's kind of what sets them behind. I mean, they are something you would have probably seen. They've seemed very similar to like something else you would have seen. Basically just like a ghost came back to life or something, or a zombie, whatever. A witch, something to do with a witch. I think, I don't remember, fuck. And then it goes on killing people. That's basically what it is. And you have to try to, and these teenagers, these kids try to survive. And this fun 1978 film, the second film, is about a campground. It's like summer camp. And then things go badly. There's like a monster hunting a summer camp and starting to kill people. Yep. And that's pretty much it. I mean, by itself, it's not much. It's part of a film trilogy, so that's something to keep in mind. But yes, I would recommend the Fear Street series as a whole from what I've seen. Number 10, this was 14th on Rotten Tomatoes, pretty close. And this is another horror film. Oh boy, it's The Descent from 2005, I think it was. I don't have a lot to say about this one. It's a good cave exploring film. And it's surprisingly good, actually. It kind of looks like a film that wouldn't be that good. I don't know why, but it is good. Just 6 young women exploring a cave and getting lost, and then things start to go bad as they start to get hurt, and bad things kind of just start to get whittled off one by one. And it has a hell of a twist ending. And yeah, the ending to this movie, personally, I found to be one of the scariest endings I've seen in a while to a movie. Although you could kind of see it coming. But yeah, good cave exploring movie. And caves are a good, scary thing. Maybe it's overdone. I don't know. I liked it.
Okay, stop trying to make Uber a popular word.
Well, it's better than your word.
We're in the top 10 now. I should have mentioned last time, but this is number 9, which I definitely ranked higher than Rotten Tomatoes, which ranked at 22nd place with only a 67%. It's Spree, which, yes, is also a type of candy. This was another tough one to rank. I put it pretty high on the list, though, just because I know when I was watching it, I felt very invested. I was very interested in watching this film. It's definitely one that suffers a bit from the modern... It relies heavily on modern trends, similarly to something like Unfriended, or maybe even like the Emoji Movie. Like, I can tell this movie is going to be dated in a couple of years. It's just about a kid who wants to be famous online and is a spree driver and streams his experience being a spree driver, which is basically just being like an Uber driver. And he only ever gets one viewer, and he'll do whatever it takes to like gain a following. The problem where this movie falls behind, though, is the kid is too unrealistic. Like, just right out of the bat, I'm just going to say it, he just becomes, right out of the bat, he's just a psychopath. He's just killing people. He doesn't talk like us. He just talks normally at the beginning and then just goes straight to killing people. Just for views. What? That doesn't make sense. It's not how things work. But whatever. If you can look past that, it's a pretty entertaining film. It actually is. I'm surprised how much I was invested in this. And what really stood out to me is how they handle social media. Because a lot of the movie is him streaming himself doing these things. And there's like a chat, on like a live stream. You can see the chat on the side of the screen a lot of the movie. And I thought that felt really, very well done, actually, surprisingly. Like, I thought the chat felt pretty realistic, like how people would react to seeing this on stream. So yeah, a surprisingly good one to me. It did have its problems, but for some reason this one ranked higher for me than on average. Number 8. This ranked 16th on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's the other Fear Street. Fear Street 1994. The first one, which I watched when it came out, before the other one. So I like this one a little better. This one's 1994. I like the way they have yours in the title, and man, did they just take home it being the 90s. Like, this is the 90s. They were constantly playing like 90s music. They want you to know this is the 90s. And it worked a little bit. I mean, I wasn't really alive for the 90s, at least not, I was born at the end of the 90s, but it gives off a very strong 90s feel, and it does feel pretty nostalgic. Like, it does feel, at least to me, I don't know if I'm the right person to say it, but the Fear Street films feel like something you would have watched at the time. They have a similar vibe to Stranger Things, a very similar vibe to Stranger Things, just minus the sci-fi. In fact, I think I like this more than Stranger Things, to be honest. I think it's good. They go all out with the 90s theme, which I think was kind of cool. It's a good movie. Would recommend the Fear Street series as a whole.
Welcome back to Scar.
This is a bit of a disagreement. 7th place, ranked 27th on Rotten Tomatoes. This is not very well accepted in critic land. So I ranked this 20 spots higher. And it is another niche one. It's Fractured. I think it's on Netflix. That's why I saw it. And man, this movie is an experience like I've never seen. Like, this is something else. Like, I don't even want to say much about it because you just spend the whole time second guessing yourself, right? Like, this guy and his family, his daughter gets hurt, so they go to a very, very bleak hospital in the middle of nowhere. And the doctors take the daughter, and the daughter disappears in the hospital. In the movie, his daughter and his wife disappear in the hospital, and he thinks the hospital kidnapped her. And the whole hospital is just saying they don't. So is the hospital actually kidnapping people, or is he just crazy? It's actually difficult to tell. The movie is done very well, I thought, for the most part. It gets a little repetitive, but you spend a lot of, it's unpredictable, and I think that's what is actually good about this. It's done well here. And the ending pays off. It is a hell of an ending, and you just watch this guy's descent into madness as he cannot figure out what is happening, and it's wild. It's wild. Would definitely recommend. But there are still 6 films better than this, I think. What are they? Let's find out.
What is BDSM?
Number 6. Not great on Rotten Tomatoes. This is 17th. And it is, I think it's another Netflix film. It's the Clove Hitch Killer. There was a lot of killer films here. I don't know why. These ended up with so many in the top 10. But yes. It's a simple premise. It's about a kid who suspects his dad of being the Clove Hitch Killer, which is some killer who killed people. I watched just a while ago. I don't remember it. And I don't have much to say about it. I just remember another one that is kind of unpredictable. You can't tell, is his dad actually the killer, or is the kid just intimidated or something? It's hard to say. And that's what is good about it, I think. I liked it. I really did. It's not the best thing ever. Like, I don't love this movie, but it was. That's the thing I should point out with these movies. The past few, I don't love them. I'm speaking highly of them, but they're not like the best movies. They're a movie I would watch again. This is a movie I would watch again, definitely. In fact, I think I did watch it again. Number 5. Now, number 5, this is the biggest disagreement in this video because Rotten Tomatoes ranked this 33rd place. It's like if this was the Rotten Tomatoes list, this would be at one of the lowest on the list. I can't believe it. People don't like this movie. Even Rotten Tomatoes, even the audience score was like 30-something%. People don't like this movie. It is The Lovely Bones. I watch it on Netflix again. It's another killer movie about a young child who got murdered, and then she is like in this transcendent space. That's half the movie, and the rest of the movie is the family's reaction and the aftermath of the guy who killed her. The reactions. It's simple. It's a simple movie. And the young girl, the daughter of the family who got killed, Just kind of watching over the family as they react. It's a simple movie, but the cinematics are done very well, I think. There's some beautiful cinematics in this movie. Like, amazing. I can't believe it. And the killer character is very well done. I think he was very unique. And it's very sad. Probably the saddest movie on this list. Like, damn. And I know this is also based off a book. That might be why I ranked it so much higher, because I have not read the book. But maybe the book is just way better. And you compare it to the book, it's not as good. That's probably a reason why. Because I don't know. I really like this movie. I thought it was very well done. And how this movie has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes astonishes me. Okay, number 4. And now here we have the top-rated one on this list on Rotten Tomatoes. This is number 1 on Rotten Tomatoes on this list. Highest rated one, it's 95%. And it is Soul, Pixar Soul of 2020. I hadn't watched it until just recently. Man, it is wild. It's a Pixar. It's definitely a Pixar movie. You can tell watching it. I was a little hesitant ranking it this high. Like, it is great. I loved watching it. It was a very fun movie to watch, and that's probably why I ranked it so high, because I was just that invested. It does have a couple of problems. The main problem is that it's a bit too ambitious, I think. Right? Like I was saying with Luca earlier, it's a little too much what they're trying to tackle. Like, they're trying to tackle, like, what happens when you die, like rebirth, like finding a purpose and stuff like that. It's very heavy stuff, and it's very difficult to turn this into an animated film that flows nicely, which they almost did. It's definitely not perfect, but it's done very well still. And the animation is great. The characters are great. I love the characters in this movie. And I think the best thing about this movie is the message. Like, seriously. This movie has such a powerful message. I don't even think it's that obvious in the movie, though. But ideally, this movie it's about a soul in the before life. Because you find a passion, and then you go down to earth as a soul to become a human being. And it's about a soul that cannot find a passion, right? And that is the message, that you don't need a purpose in life to live life. And I think that's super important, because in this day and age, you always hear people saying, follow your dreams, follow your dreams. And what if there are people that don't really have a dream, Like, then what do they do? Like, I mean, even me personally, I don't really have a dream. Like, I'm not set out to do this one thing. It's my goal in life. It's just not me. And it's that case for a lot of people. And that's what this movie is getting at. You don't need to have a purpose in life to enjoy it. And I think that's a very powerful message that we need to see more often. So yes, definitely recommend. Not the best Pixar movie, definitely, but high on the list, probably top 10 Pixar movie. Solid A tier movie. Number 3, bit of a disagreement with this one. 26th on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is War Dogs. Definitely different. I don't really care about war movies, but this is not a war movie, so I mean a little bit, but not really. I ranked it now. These next few, I rank them at the top of the list. Mostly solely on the fact that I just enjoyed it so much watching it. I don't think the movie itself is like amazing, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say. War Dogs is a movie about 2 young men trying to sell weapons to the government and making a lot of money doing that, and then getting in trouble because of it. Because it causes problems. And it is very interesting. I found it very interesting. It's very similar to The Wolf of Wall Street. In fact, it has the same actor, Jonah Hill, in it. It's like that. These guys getting rich doing very risky stuff. Kind of like Breaking Bad almost. crime drama, I guess, kind of is what it is. No, sort of, yeah. And I like that genre. I really like. This is more of a subjective one, I guess. I like this movie, but a lot of people don't like it that much, I guess, because it's only scored 61 on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't terrible. But I like this movie. Second place. This one's only ranking 20th on the Rotten Tomato score, which is pretty shocking to me. This is a classic. It's a 90s film, and it is Miss Doubtfire, which I think I had seen a long time ago when I was really young, although I don't remember it, except for the ending. This is a pretty classic one. I'm pretty amazed I haven't seen it all the way through. And man, oh man, this was awesome. I love this movie. Holy shit. This was a great watch. I don't know. I haven't actually really talked to anybody about it. I don't know if people actually like it or if it's just a classic. But I really liked it. It was such a cool premise. And it was some meta shit. Like, you had Robin Williams acting to be an actor who was acting as a different person. It's like, whoa, it's craziness. I should explain what's happening. It's Robin Williams acting as an actor who got a restraining order from his kids, I think, is what happened. He got a divorce or something. And because he loves his kids so much, he dresses up as a woman, portrays as a woman, a pretty believable one, in fact, and becomes a maid for his kids, so he can see his kids. I don't know. That's really it. And then that causes drama because his wife is trying to keep him away from the kids, and it's just, it's a really fun watch. Definitely a comedy. Probably my favorite comedy of all time, I gotta say. And there was only one film that can top this. What is it? Number one, which is number one for me. Amazingly, it's only number 9 for Rotten Tomatoes. My favorite movie of 2021 is Rain Man. This one's, I guess, maybe a little biased towards me because I like numbers and stuff, and this movie kind of has that in it. Kind of. I mean, it's about a guy with autism and who gets his dad's fortune instead of his brother, and his brother wants the fortune, but instead his autistic brother has it, even though his brother's not going to do anything with it because he has autism and he doesn't even know what money is. So he kind of kidnaps his brother, drives him across the country to kind of live off of his fortune. And then, I don't know, it just ends up being an emotional experience. What else can I say? It has a lot of gambling. The autistic guy is like a math genius, actually. So that kind of appeals to me a bit. And yeah. I really like this movie. Of course, it's number 1 on the list. And that's really all I'm going to say. In fact, I'm just going to leave it there. Would recommend if you haven't seen it. And that is every film I watched in 2021 ranked. Now, before I go, I want to look at the stats here of how my rankings compared with Rotten Tomatoes. And it is kind of shocking. The biggest agreement we had was The Lovely Bones, which I ranked 5th. Rotten Tomatoes ranked 33rd. So I like this movie way more than the average person, apparently. Then that was the movie I liked the most, more than average. The movie I seem to dislike most, more than average, is The Lighthouse, which I ranked 35th. And Rotten Tomatoes ranked 8th. There also happened to be 3 perfect agreements. 37th, 19th, and 11th had the same rank. But what I was interested in is how well does Rotten Tomatoes scores correlate with my rankings. Now, I know Rotten Tomatoes is not the best. It's not perfect. Right? A lot of people don't agree with Rotten Tomatoes. But seeing that it's a common way that I first find out about a movie, decide if I'm going to like it, I want to see how accurate it is. How good of a predictor is it? And turns out the correlation is non-existent. There is no correlation at all, basically. It is just random, it seems like. And if you look at this graph, you can see the blue line that's descending from 37th down to 1st. But the red line doesn't match with that at all. It just seems to be completely random, all over the place. It's very interesting. I was pretty shocked. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. Holy cow, this video was like freaking long. Jesus Christ, I had a lot to say. So yeah, thanks for watching.